Remember 3 months ago when the very air we rely on to breathe was trying to kill us? Well, whether you remember it or have short-term memory loss, in that time I made a series called Quarantine Backlog where I tried to go through games I bought on Steam in some horrendous sale or other but never bothered to actually play or install. And when I say series, I mean I made 3 videos. You know the type, the games that make up like 80% of your Steam library, but instead of actually playing them, it's easy just to get a new game of Civ going or something. Given I was locked in my home to protect my very existence, I thought I'd go through a bunch and make videos on if they were good or whatever. Anyway, no longer in lockdown, still got lots of games to go through. Segue to new series I'm going to call Indie Gems. Working title. I'm going to play indie games and talk about if they're any good or not, because I'm original. Like an Adidas original. Bought from a Greek market. First up is a game called Shieldwall. Shieldwall is a game still in early access as of writing that came out on 23rd of March 2020, literally the day the shops closed in merry old England. It's a third-person action game where you play a little Roman era commander with a squeaky little voice with the aim to capture all the points on the map before the enemy does. To help you with all this, you generate gold per second that can be spent on buying troops to either defend the points you've captured or follow you into battle, as well as upgrades for yourself and the AI soldiers that follow you. While that's already a basic recipe for success in my cookbook, the game's individuality comes in its physics and aesthetic. You see, these little guys are the gang beasts, human fall flat, Play-Doh type guys that run funny and move like obese men wading through 3 feet of mashed potato. You can't go wrong with that kind of cuteness. You ever want to just not bother with the graphics and that, just make a little Play-Doh man. Simple. While the physics could be an instant killer, you can tell the devs have spent a lot of time tweaking how the game plays and crucially how combat feels. Too much mashed potato and you and your soldier pals would just feel sluggish. Too little grounding and it wouldn't feel skill based and that you could be flying all over the place just for the lulz. It feels like an actual action game bizarrely. Soldiers thud weightily to the floor when a javelin impales in their skulls. Swords clash well and hitboxes seem pretty good. Like 20 life-size sausages all smacking each other with rolling pins. When you've got a full platoon and you come up against another full platoon and you slowly stand off with each other before somebody screams and runs at them and the 2 Play-Doh armies smash into each other, it's a genuinely satisfying feeling. The real charm in this though comes in the resource management and real-time decision making. Do you head back to relieve that base that's currently under attack or take advantage of their own fort being lightly guarded? One mistake can cost you the entire match. If you lose your troops in that assault and lose that extra base that granted you more gold per second, suddenly you haven't enough to buy troops to defend yourself before the horde come crashing down, forcing you to start all over again. And let me tell you, some of the missions they've got currently in the campaign are pretty hard, like tearing your hair out hard, like overly hard, like dev sort that out, that is too hard. Yeah, just make it a little bit, tone it down a bit. The matches can feel a little too unfair towards the end. If your team is still kicking it towards then, but you haven't had as much gold to upgrade and get the best troops and buffs, you're going to find it very hard to defeat the AI team that has in open combat. There's only 2 types of troops at Righted, and that is good troop and bad troop. So if you go out there with a full army and you come up against another full army, it is quite literally down to who has the most gold and who has the most upgrades. And if you've been losing to the AI throughout the entire match, they're going to have the most upgrades. There's also only so many upgrades and troops that you can buy, so more than a few times I get to the end of a match and it would just be me and one other group that would just continuously get the most troops and meet in the middle and clash at each other, kill everybody, go back to our base, get full troops, go back to the middle, clash, and it just became a giant stalemate of clashing potato Play-Doh people. Something to spice up those stalemates at the end where it's just 2 superpowers wouldn't go amiss, but the game is much better when it has 3 or 4 different teams vying out. In that case you can use guerrilla tactics quite well. If you've not got as much gold or as many troops or as many upgrades as the biggest team, you can sneak around them, attack them in small bits, go for different bases and let the other AI teams take control of that. It makes the game a lot more fun. Fun's the word I'm looking for. Aesthetically, it's still a bit rough around the edges. Each soldier is a cookie-cutter copy of the last with no real personality. The lighting effects aren't real time and just stick to the same back of everyone's shiny armoured heads. Lots of textures and noticeably low res, but that stuff should hopefully come with time. What needs immediate attention though is the UI. Oh god, the UI. Any given moment looks like a 5-year-old fronting a board meeting on how to play a game with nothing but crayons and projector. Everywhere you look there's letters, numbers, bars, all lovingly punched in with Arial font surrounding them and italics for a bit of panache. On top of that, primary cores are splashed on key bindings like tab and 1+ control. It's like I did really good science homework and then smeared a bit of shit all over it. It's gonna drop the grade down even if the teacher doesn't mention it. But this is all aesthetic stuff. What's great about this gem is it's exactly that. A gem, a quintessential diamond in the rough, if you will. Games are all about gameplay. If you haven't got that, you might as well make a video or write a book or do a one-man stage play. And this game has its core gameplay nailed down like Spartacus' followers in 71 BC. Get it? Because it's a Roman. This is what early access should be for. Once you know you've got the basics, you can work on the rest over time, while punters fund you and hurl abusive feedback on YouTube videos about your use of fonts. The devs make this game prettier, sound a bit better, and definitely 100% give it a multiplayer mode, and they've got themselves a little classic on their hands. Classic? Because Rome? I forget it.